I'm one of those people that thinks, you should probably be making a lot of small mistakes. If you're not making mistakes somewhat frequently, you're probably not doing enough. You're probably not pushing yourself outside your comfort zone enough, or you're probably not moving fast enough. One of those things, or multiple of those things. Usually, in my experience and from what I've heard from other successful entrepreneurs, you got to really get some traction going on. You got to know, not only, yes, this is for sure a pain point for people, but is it a pain point people are going to swipe their credit card for? You got to think, are people going to pull out their wallets and put their credit card information into your site and give you money for what you're offering? My name is Joe Howard. I'm the founder and CEO of WP Buffs.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Joe Howard decided to build a productized service for supporting your WordPress sites. All this and more on Code Story. Joe Howard is originally from Washington, D.C. He did his undergrad outside of Philly, then quickly moved back to the D.C. area. He's married with a young family, and most of his outside of work time is dedicated to family and traveling to interesting places when the pandemic allows. He likes to try and keep himself disciplined with his day-to-day calendar through exercise, reading, team growth, and family focus, and he uses a pomodoro journal, off and on, to help him keep organized and blocking his time. He's the host of the WPMRR podcast, on which he focuses on increasing monthly recurring revenue. I'd recommend checking it out. Joe started out as a WordPress freelancer, but found it was hard to scale building websites. However, what he knew was the fact that there were a lot of WordPress sites out there, and they needed grade A support. This is the creation story of WP Buffs.
We manage WordPress websites. So our product is really a productized service. The core of what we do, we're a services company. We sell ongoing subscriptions in the form of care plans, so that somebody runs a WordPress website, they realize, I got to handle all my security and my website speed and performance. I got to manage all the plugin and theme updates. I got to make edits to 10 pages all the time. I got to update my WooCommerce store, all this stuff. That's where WP Buffs comes in. Grab a subscription and we do 24/7 support. And then we also do a white label program. So we work with some agencies, freelancers, and WordPress professionals, and we kind of allow them to resell our care plans so they can offer 24/7 support to their clients, but it's also white label. So an agency can offer 24/7 support themselves, and then we'll kind of do all the execution on the back end for them. They can just kind of plug and play into what we do. Like a lot of people who kind of start WordPress-related businesses, I started as a freelancer. I was building websites for folks. I always found I couldn't really scale website building. It was hard for me. And once I got to 2 or 3 websites at a time, I kind of got stuck, and it's hard to get past that point. And so I thought, well, there are already a lot of WordPress websites out there. I think it's 37%, 38% of the web is built on WordPress. So there's a lot of WordPress sites out there, and a lot of them need ongoing support. So we kind of shifted into this different business model, and that was about 5 years ago now or so. And here we are today.
So tell me about, you said 5 years ago you started this. Tell me about the first product, the MVP, or the first, service offering, however you want to put that. Tell me about that first part of your business, and how long did it take you to get it up and running, and what sort of tools did you use to do that? Yeah,
it was pretty quick to get up and running. And it was pretty lean to start off with. There were not a lot of costs involved. We never raised money or anything like that. We have always been a revenue-funded company. Probably started the business with, a few $1,000s. Built a WordPress website. That software is free. And, you have to pay for hosting. You have to pay for maybe some premium plugins. We just started off super simple. We had PayPal buttons on the website. People could just check out via PayPal. The funny thing about the first ever care plan we sold, we had some kind of basic stuff up on the website. I looked at some of the other people who did, were in the care plan business. And I said, okay, let's just put some of the stuff up that they do. We'll do the backups. We'll offer edits to the website. will help with speed and security optimization. And then putting the website together, we got our first sale about a week or so after the landing page and the pricing page and everything was up and running. I said, oh shoot, like I have to like put all this together now. Someone bought it, someone's paying us for this, so I guess I have to like now put it together. So, was scrambling around looking for the right backup plugin that we were going to use, and okay, I gotta hire some freelancers to come and help with the security optimization, speed optimization stuff. And it was kind of born out of a pretty quick start, kind of like a no pressure, no diamond situation. It was like, someone bought this, okay, let's put everything in the back end together and kind of improve it as we went along. And then once we got to 5 customers, 10 customers, it was much better organized after that. But yeah, it started pretty quick.
I love that phrase, no pressure, no diamond. I'm stealing that one, Joe. That's a good one.
I'm not a big NFL football fan. I'm more of a soccer guy. But growing up, I used to, I'm from DC, so I would follow the Washington football team. And it was a big deal when RG3 came to Washington. Everyone was super excited. And that was one of his phrases. He was no pressure, no diamonds. And unfortunately, his career didn't turn out like we all hoped it had. But I still hold to that phrase, and I think it's a good one.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted vCISOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory.
Well, in those early days, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but dig into it a little more. Or in the early days, what decisions and trade-offs did you have to make in the short term to basically get things up and running and working for those first customers? And how did you cope with those decisions?
I think a lot of companies, they start off and they think everything has to be perfect, and they think they have to have a great service off the bat. I think, people have to love everything they do. And if not, then, they're going to fail. And I think in some scenarios that may be true. There's maybe some situations where you really want to have a really polished product before you put it out there in the world and start offering it to people. But I think probably if you're just starting a little something and offering it to people, it doesn't have to be great to start. I think probably 95% of cases, you can start off with something decent and then grow from there. I mean, in terms of some of the trade-offs we made, our care plans were not great when we started. Like, our 24/7 support was not great when we started, but we built it up over time. And I actually think this had an advantage. Since we didn't spend so much time trying to make a perfect product, we actually came to the table with this MVP that people bought. And then they said, I see the value here, but Joe, it's not great yet. Why don't you try X, Y, and Z? And so we were able to start with a minimalist product and actually build what people wanted. That's why we offer premium plugins for free under our care plans now, because we had a lot of people asking for real security on the website. Okay, let's partner with iTheme Security Pro and we'll offer that premium plugin that you'd have to buy otherwise for free under our care plans. Agencies and freelancers started coming to us and saying how do I sell care plans to my clients? I want to learn from you. So we said, we should probably do a white label program, because that's pretty easy to plug into the operations we already have. So now we are able to sell care plans to the clients of freelancers and agencies that we work with, and they are kind of a part of our sales force as well. Yeah, started off pretty minimalist, but I think that's a trade-off I'd probably make again. I want to put something out in the world and let people toy around with it and play with it and honestly poke holes in it and find issues with it so that we can make it better and get it to the point of, okay, is this really something people will pay for?
You touched on this some too in product progression, as far as, you started adding premium plugins and additional sort of things into your care plans. How did you continue to progress the product from there? And how did you go about then and now building your roadmap of what is the most important thing next to offer your customers? I
think probably the most important thing we did was implement a customer success team. Dean and Luis are our customer success team now. They're, I guess, a small but mighty team of two. Dean's been with us for, 3 years now, 2 or 3 years. But he really was kind of the founder of the customer success team. That's had a really enormous impact in the work that we do. So their biggest goal is churn reduction. So they want to reduce churn and make it as low as possible, meaning, have as few people cancel their care plans as possible. They're also trying to do things like hit net negative churn and try and make sure that people who are upgrading their accounts, like that revenue boost is bigger than the amount of churn leaving the company. So net negative churn. With regards to getting feedback from clients, that's something they're doing all the time. It's part of our workflow now. When someone leaves a review, they leave a smiley face and they say 5 stars, this is great. Or they say 3 stars. Oh, I wish this could have been done better. We really have good procedures and systems in place so that, Dean and Luis they're super focused on putting some manual action in after that, really reaching out to folks, having conversations with people. Dean shoots his Calendly link out to all of our white label partners and direct customers so that they can book calls with them so he can really ask deep questions. And that does 2 things, right? It helps us get really good feedback to add new features and gather information about what people need so we can build it out in the future. And then it does directly help with churn reduction because, a company that's managing your website, you need to really be able to trust that team. You handed over the keys to your website, which is a really big deal. You want to be able to hop on a call with someone every once in a while and have good, reply and resolution time for tickets and that kind of stuff. But it helps in churn reduction as well. So focusing on that pretty early was important. And we kind of shifted. Dean used to be kind of like a support manager and he kind of would manage the desk, not necessarily the technical aspects of the WordPress site, but just would be managing the desk. We had a conversation one day and he said, I think this needs to be more of a customer success sort of position because I think that's what we need to really help our clients move their websites forward. Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We manage WordPress, but we do everything to help them grow their website and grow digitally.
This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com.
So let's switch over to team. You mentioned a couple of your teammates as far as the customer support there and success managers. But how did you go about building your team? And I'm looking for what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses?
This is kind of a 2-part question. Let me kind of tackle this in those 2 pieces. First is how did I go about knowing what positions we needed to hire for? The core of what we do is support. It's 24/7 support. So I knew I needed strong engineers when it came to WordPress, but also just strong support folks, people who understood how to empathize with customers, how to be emailing with customers, because that's our primary mode of communication is email. So everybody has to be able to really do a good job, not just in the technical aspect, but also doing support. With regards to kind of that second piece, which is, I guess, what are we looking for in new hires? We're always looking for humble, hungry, smart. Those are super important. We make sure we have our values front and center in all our job posts. We're looking for people who have the skill set needed for a position, but probably more importantly, we're looking for folks who are really flexible and who are really value-driven and passionate about what they do, because we can teach someone the technical aspects of a job. That's not a big problem or even a really big challenge. The challenge is getting the right people who are motivated. We don't feel here that we're just managing WordPress websites. We're actually big open source junkies. We're big supporters of open source software and giving people the ability to publish what they want to online. We want to help democratize publishing.
So let's flip over to scalability a little bit. Did you build this to scale efficiently in the beginning, or were you fighting this as you grew? Was there any point where you're like, I need more people, or I need to change our systems? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I'm still fighting this. I think we're still fighting this every day. It used to be more of a challenge than it is now. I think a lot of the I get a lot of these questions myself, actually, like how do you scale doing WordPress support and 24/7 support and care plan stuff? And I tell people pretty honestly, when we were managing 50 websites, we were not a super profitable company. We were usually break even around 50 sites. As we started to scale up, we hit better profitability. So once we hit, 100, 200 sites, things got better. And, now we're at multiple hundreds. And, it continues to improve. We've grown pretty slow and steady over the lifespan of WP Buffs. We had our 2 best months ever in May and June. And I think July was like our 4th biggest month ever. So in the past few months, we've definitely seen some acceleration. But yeah, scaling is hard, especially around productized services, because we're not a SaaS company. We can't do like 30-day free trials to drive free trials. Like everybody who comes and signs up with us has to be a paying customer because we're a services company. So we're trying to invest a lot in the right marketing. Well, we kind of talked about this before, but the right people on the team to help, push forward marketing, sales, and operations, bring it all together and, deliver a product that hopefully is really attractive to people, and that we're setting the great expectations on the front end so that when people join up, they're really happy with what goes on with their websites.
So as you step out on the balcony and look across all that you've built with WP Buffs, what are you most proud of?
The thing I have to be most proud of is the team. It's been a wild ride for 5 years. We recently hit $1 million, in ARR. So that was like a pretty big milestone for us. It's kind of like a random milestone at the end of the day, but it does signify like we've made it to a certain point in the business, and that's really cool. And with, that increase in annual revenue, we've been able to hire a lot of great people on the team. That's probably the thing I'm most proud of. It's like the ability for the business to support 25 or so people around the world, maybe 30 at this point. Be a really core part of the WordPress community as well. WordPress is open source software, so it means there's a big community around it. We have Allie on our team, who's our community manager. She's really invested in the WordPress community, and so she helps us to do great work supporting open source software, giving as much back as possible to be able to continue to grow WordPress and get more people involved, help it become a more diverse space in the whole tech ecosystem, stuff like that. Yeah.
So flipping the script a little bit, tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
Which one? Yeah, now I guess I have to pick a mistake now, but I'm one of those people that thinks, you should probably be making a lot of small mistakes. If you're not making mistakes somewhat frequently, you're probably not doing enough. You're probably not pushing yourself outside your comfort zone enough, or you're probably not moving fast enough. One of those things, or multiple of those things. If I think about particular mistakes on our end, probably one of the bigger ones was trying to scale 24/7 support on our team. That's the reason a lot of people sign up with us, is they get 24/7 support. No matter what time zone they're in, someone will be on the help desk to help them with whatever they need on their website. Obviously, for emergency support, we're there for that. We have a lot of automations in place for notifications when bad things happen. We're also there to make adjustments and edits on people's websites so that they can, keep pushing things forward. And that was an area I think we made a lot of mistakes in. We tried a lot of different strategies on how to tackle 24/7 support. We tried being really rigid with like people signing in and signing off at certain times and like really covering a certain time period and like always being online during that time period. And we tried to make it, I think, really rigid because we thought like we just need 24/7 coverage and we need to ensure that that's the case, and that's how you do it. The solution to that, though, we actually found was that we made our schedule a little bit more lax. We actually kind of said, people log in and log off more around your schedule and work around these times. But if you're not here that whole time, it's fine. And we actually found that our support actually improved. We were able to decrease, reply times and resolution times, just making things a little bit more relaxed. So it's kind of counterintuitive because you'd think like, I got to make sure all my time's covered. But, once you have a good number of people on the team logging in, and the people you've hired are good people and they're dedicated to their jobs and doing a great job for their customers and, being value oriented, things just work out if you give people a little bit more leeway.
What does the future look like for your product and for your team?
I think this is always a challenging question because I don't tend to think too far into the future. If I'm thinking like a year ahead or 2 years ahead, we're kind of reached this point of the business where we've started to gain a little bit of momentum. We have a little bit of money in the bank, so we can invest a little bit more in personnel, a little bit more in, marketing. We started a YouTube channel, so we're putting some good investments in that. So there's a few different areas I think we can really push forward on. Also, I think on the operations side, this is the time where probably, this fall and winter, I'll get the leadership team together and we'll really start thinking about, we've tackled subscription care plans. We do a very good job of that. What's the next step? How could we double our revenue next year? Is it just with care plans? Maybe, but I think there's also some other options. We get asked by people a lot for things we don't do. We don't really offer, design services right now. We don't offer SEO services right now. Those are the two big things people, want help with. They want help growing their website and business, and they need some design support as well. I think that'll be a challenge for us because the reason we haven't implemented either of those is we don't want to dilute the thing we're really, really good at. We want to be incredible at one thing, not, okay at 2 or 3 different things. And so this may be the time when we start thinking more seriously about how do we expand the business and help our current customer base do more and allow, our offerings to expand our reach in the WordPress space.
Let's switch to you, Joe. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person you look up to and why.
I always have trouble naming a single person for these kinds of things because I'm a big member of the WordPress community and just the remote worker ecosystem. I'm always following a few different people in WordPress space, and it's hard to pick one person. But I do this podcast, which you've actually been on recently, but I do that usually with my co-host Christy. She's someone I guess I'm always talking about challenges with and how we can, improve in our day-to-day, jobs and, the challenges of remote work and that kind of stuff. So I think Christy Trinos is someone who I'm usually pretty in tune with. If I'm thinking about someone who I guess I look up to in terms of, the work that I do and someone who's been where, I don't know, I guess I see myself moving in that direction. It's the guy who used to run iThemes security, and his name's Corey Miller. He's someone who I follow pretty closely. Yeah, he's just been on this kind of incredible journey of building a big business from kind of nothing. And I would like to follow in that path as well. So I'm always in touch with him, seeing what he's up to, trying to pick his brain and all that.
If you could go back to the beginning, Joe, what would you do differently, or where would you consider taking a different approach with WP Buffs?
I always hesitate to say I'd go back and change something because I think if you change one little thing, it could change everything. It's like this butterfly effect, right? It's like the butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the planet, the volcano explodes on the other. You have no idea. When you go back and can make any small change, anything can happen. And every mistake I've made has been a learning opportunity. So I don't know if I'd necessarily go back and change any mistakes like day-to-day stuff, but I'd probably change a little bit about the time I put into the business. I think one thing that's always been a challenge for me is I'm at my desk right now, which is kind of in the corner of my family room. I probably am on my computer a little bit too much. Whenever I kind of have a little bit of free time, I could go and do a little bit of work right now. If I were to change something, I'd probably say continue to be more efficient in your work. Keep working smarter, not harder. You don't have to be putting in 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day when you start something to see progress. Sometimes it helps to work hard. I'm not saying that's not true. There may be weeks and maybe even months where you're working hard and longer hours. I think looking back, and I guess based on my experience, I think you should probably be able to put in 4 to 6 hours of work a day and see good progress. And if you're not, you may need to change something in your business model or your pricing or something significant, because I think people can build a business without working 10 hours a day. And when I was starting off, I worked pretty hard and I put a lot of time in, and again, I wouldn't take that back, but I'd probably tap myself on the shoulder and say hey, you don't have to put this extra hour in. After 40 hours a week, there are a lot of studies showing that your time you spend does not really affect success, and it's not very effective time you're putting in, your hours 40 through 60 especially. Definitely 60 through 80 are just not very effective. Work smarter. I think I'd probably go back and try and do a little more of that.
Well, last question, Joe. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing or created the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. They can't wait to show it to you. What advice do you give that person having gone down this road a bit?
How do you know it's the next big thing if you haven't put it out in front of people yet? Usually, in my experience and from what I've heard from other successful entrepreneurs, like, you got to really get some traction going on. You got to know, hey, this is a pain point. Not only, yes, this is for sure a pain point for people, but is it a pain point people are going to like swipe their credit card for? You got to think, are people going to pull out their wallets and put their credit card information into your site and give you money for what you're offering? Of course, there are examples of people who just like have a great idea, they put it out in the world, it blows up. Yes, that happens, but that's definitely the exception. And the rule much more closely follows. Someone has some sort of idea in their head and they build something pretty quickly and they put it out in the world and it turns out that thing's not right, but a few people paid for it and they said, oh, what about this, this, and this? And then it grows into something that you didn't even think that's what it was going to be. But what you have, a year later is not what you started with. And that's okay. That's usually what happens. I think if there was someone who I was on a plane with, I'd say, go out and set up that landing page, start gathering some email addresses, start getting people to do demos with you, jump on one-on-one calls, screen shares with people, trying to get credit card information, and start really building the business side of things. The other quick thing I would say, I do this thing when I'm on a plane where I always like to take the window seat, and because I really like looking out on the world. I think it's like really magical to be in a plane and like see the earth below you. Like, I think a lot of people jump on planes, they don't really like appreciate that, but I always do, and I always try to. And I always look down and I say like, okay, WP Buffs has like 600 customers right now. And I look down in the world and I'm like, 600 people could be in what I'm looking at right now down on the earth, like in this swatch of land, right? There are so many people out there in the world. So everybody can have a piece of this if you wanted to. And so I would say look out the window too, because you can see all your customers and then like this is only a tiny, tiny piece of the world. Think about how many people out there could buy your thing. And, it starts with the first one, but it could be millions someday. You never know.
Well, Joe, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for being on Code Story and telling the creation story of WP Buffs.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. Support the show on patreon.com/codestory for just $5 to $10 a month. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.